Shouts out to my people. Shouts out to my people. Sending love, positivity, and good vibes to my people, man. I hope you guys are doing good today. I'm doing great. Today we got Carr versus Andrew Tate. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys comment, like, subscribe. Let's get it.
But actually, you don't want to feel nothing anymore. You like to feel better. So it's that thing of like, I don't think we talk about it enough, but I think that thing of, thinking about yourself all the time, I think it just can lead to a melancholy, a sadness. I think depression is maybe a slightly separate thing. Not to nitpick, but it feels like that's a disease.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of sadness in the world. And you're lucky if you're sad. Because if you're sad, it's circumstantial and you can do something about it. Are you depressed because you have a serotonin imbalance in your head and it's a heritable trait? Or are you sad because your life hasn't worked out the way you want it to work out? Well, if that's the case, the latter, you're in luck because you can change that.
It does feel like there's a bit of a crisis going on within young men at the moment. And I think your new show on Netflix shines a light on many of the difficulties that young men are facing. I was really excited to talk to you about this particular topic because I've been trying to arrive at a position myself on why so many young men appear to be lost and suicidality has increased, and there's, these new masculine influences or masculine influencers that are really rounding up this cohort of young men.
Who are we talking about? Andrew Tate?
Andrew Tates of the world.
Well, Andrew Tate's interesting, isn't he? Because I think John Mulaney made the observation, Trump is a poor person's idea of what a rich person looks like. Yeah, I've got gold taps. And I think sort of Andrew Tate is like a 14-year-old boy's idea of what masculinity might look like.
I do get what he's saying. Andrew Tate comes off rough around the edges. He talks about women not in the brightest light. He likes to drive fast cars, smoke cigars, and I think that he's really funny. A lot of the things that get blown out of proportion are things that he is saying out of context, being, sarcastic, being funny. But in this culture, you have to be politically correct and you can't tell a joke or you can't speak on how you may feel about a situation. And I really wanted to break this situation down because this shows us how weak our society is. Andrew Tate, I kind of put him in the same category of Charleston White. These people only got famous because they shined a light at the flaws and the weakness of our society. And a lot of people aren't willing to look at those things and, address them, let alone correct them. And I think that if anything, people like Charleston White, Andrew Tate, these people go out of their way. Yeah, they're not perfect. No human is perfect. You know what I mean? And unless you are going to be the poster child for masculinity, then I think that you really should keep your mouth closed. I only say that because there's so many fields for women and their femininity. But when it comes to masculinity, there's not a lot of people standing on what they believe. And he is one of the few voices of masculinity. And I do think that, especially his old content, he gets carried away, tries to be sarcastic, funny. I think it's hilarious. But a lot of other people, think it's nasty work. And they got a right to that opinion. It might not be their cup of tea. But I applaud Andrew Tate and what he's done. I'm not going to shave my head and go bald. I'm not going to, download Hustlers University. I think that is kind of like a scam. But I just view everything with a grain of salt. I don't think anything in this world is absolute, like 100%. Yeah. He has the Hustlers University because he's smart and he wants to get paid off of his influence. I just think that, attacking another man, especially the times that we're in right now, it's like that's the last thing we need is another man to speak on another man's masculinity, whether that may be overwhelming, whatever the case may be. I think that any person online that you got, even me, take everything that you guys hear from people online with a grain of salt. Don't idolize nobody. As much as Andrew Tate, I can sit here and say, changed my life and helped me with my mindset and, motivated me. I still take everything he says with a grain of salt. You know, that doesn't mean become a fanboy. It just means, you know, take the chicken, leave the bone. So do I think Jimmy Carr's right? Yeah, I get it. You know, Andrew Tate might not be your cup of tea, but I think that he's shining a light and doing so much more than the average man that it's like, you shouldn't even be focused on what he's doing. You need to be focused on you trying to change lives. I can listen to Andrew Tate all day and night, but I still have to realize, you know, I'm a man, and what I believe, you know, not everything that I see Andrew Tate talk about, yeah, it might motivate me. Yeah, I might take it with a grain of salt, but you know, it's not the end all be all. I still have my personal opinions about situations, and you know what I'm saying? So long story short, don't lose yourself off the internet. You know, you can get in these rabbit holes, red pill, especially on YouTube. It's easy to get into these rabbit holes and, you know, idolize these people, but just know that these people are just like you. And the number one rule with masculinity is really, you know, make yourself proud, put yourself on, you know, believe in yourself. Everything else comes second. So as long as you taking care of yourself, you're loving yourself, and you're putting yourself first, because to me, what matters most is the mindset and the message.
Like it's really, and of course, nature abhors a vacuum, and there's a real vacuum for elders. Like we don't learn how to shave from our fathers. It's a YouTube video. And so you lose something in that bonding. So there's a big bit in the new show where I give a young guy, an audience member, a pretty tough time. Like we have the talk, and I give them advice on how to be with a woman. And I'm not wrong about anything. It's really funny and it's really rude, but I'm not wrong about stuff. It's like, it's about consent, and I think it's really good because I've sugared the pill of the message because people don't want to talk about it. People go, it's obvious what consent is. Yeah, not to 17-year-old boys or girls. It's like, actually, what does that look like and how should that be? So it's a really fun routine. It's a really fun routine to perform and to write.
What is it to be a man these days? Because it's quite confusing in terms, even the conversation around like chivalry and understanding, you know.
Well, people talk about toxic masculinity, and easy fix: be a gentleman, be a mensch. That's it. This is done. Be a gentleman, be a mensch. You know, a gentleman is never rude by accident. It's Christopher Hitchens' line. Great. I don't know. I mean, my thing about young men today, if I was going to give young men advice, it would be get the right drugs and the real thing, right? In real life. Live in real life, right? So why young men are obsessed by video games, right? Obsessed. They're spending hours and hours and hours online playing video games. Why? Well, that's a proxy for career. Right, video games. You think about the levels of video games and what people do on video games. That's a proxy. That's like it's a substitute for the career that they're not having. And then they spend a lot of time, fapping to Pornhub or YouPorn or whatever, and that's a proxy for sex. And my thing would be, George Orwell wasn't right. Our power won't be taken away from us by some authoritarian master. We're going to give it away for cheap dopamine. And the cheap dopamine of video games and online porn and living online is getting in the way of real life. So it's risk, right? That's what we're not allowing young people to do, because we're saying to young people, you can't take risks in real life. We're helicopter parenting. We're not giving them the freedom. How much freedom should you give a kid? As much as they can cope with, right? 14-year-olds used to be babysitters. They now need babysitters. That's not good, right? So you should allow them more freedom in the real world, because otherwise, the only place they get freedom is online. And no freedom in the real world. You're not allowed to go to the park and hang out, but you're allowed to do whatever you want online. Well, that feels like a very bad social experiment. That feels like a bad idea. Yeah, it feels like we've inverted Maslow, this pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, and you go, well, food and shelter and warmth and we've got all the bottom stuff worked out in our society, right? We kind of can't see it. We're not grateful for that because we can't see
the hot shower.
We can't see the third world, and we can't see the people in the past having a tougher time than us. So we take it for granted. But we've worked out that stuff. They hadn't worked that stuff out 200 years ago. But they had the top of the pyramid sorted. Everyone knew who they were. They had their identity. And they knew what their purpose was. Everyone knew who they were, what they were about, and they were connected to the others in the group. And now we're kind of free-floating individuals. We kind of worship the individual as if we can survive as individuals. I always think of that thing of like, there's no such thing as a baby. There's a baby and a mother, there's a baby and a father, baby and an auntie, but there's no such thing as a baby, because a baby on its own isn't anything. It's dead. It needs taken care of. We're all still babies. We all need the connections. Yourself, yeah, sure, there's a lot of yourself that's within you, but a lot of it is out in the world. It's connected to other people, and it mediates who you think you are. And that's slightly missing from society, where you kind of live online and you're kind of a self-authored thing. You're just on the computer, on the screen, and you're not connected and you're not taking risks. Taking risks is really important.
Is this in part due to the rise in atheism and agnosticism? I think we both, me and you, lost our sort of religious faith around the same age. I think sort of early...
Mid-20s. I think it's a weird thing where you can lose your... I certainly don't believe in the stories. There's two types of fools, right? There's people that take religion literally, and there's people that think it has no value. Okay? Both idiots for different reasons. Like, it works as a thing, religion. I miss it, because the reason the ceremony works isn't because God's pleased, it's because the people came together. And so I think we look for things that are proxies for religion. And sometimes that's football. It could be environmentalism, because you go, well, I need something, I need purpose in my life. I need to feel like I'm adding value. And what a great cause. I'm going to save the planet. It's a big thing to think about. It's got a religiosity to it. But I don't think that's necessarily the answer. Some people do it with politics. They think politics is going to be heaven. They're going to come up with some perfect system. I think you're putting too much pressure on politics.
First time I've ever said this, actually, but when you just said, I think I miss religion, I think I miss religion.
It's nice, wasn't it? It's a lovely thought as well when you lose someone that you love very much. It's a lovely thought. I mean, heaven it's a lovely thought. And I think in a way, in our culture, fame and fortune has replaced heaven. It's the land of milk and honey, and where you can feel like you're everything's okay, everything's taken care of, and it is good. But it's not heaven. I don't believe in an afterlife. I believe in a next life. So I don't think anything happens after you die, but I think you can have a next life. You have a very different life. So it's interesting. You're at this point of your life when you're thinking about, well, we might start a family. It's a whole other life. It's a whole other, you'll hardly recognize yourself. You and your partner will be saying, what did we do? What did we do all day? Now we're not at Peppa Pig World or wherever you find yourselves.
It's really just struck me that I do kind of miss religion, but it feels like when I lost my religion, I put a backpack full of weights on. And I think that's what the responsibility and individualism is.
I mean, for me, the loss of religion was a rush of blood to the head. It was like, this is my life. And I need to make good on this, and I need to live it. The tragedy is most people don't have that they don't get to kind of follow their dream.
Overall, this was a great listen by Jimmy Carr. I just think that us as men should be less focused on what other men are doing, what other men are saying, and we should just focus on our lane and trying to help other men. A lot of the things that Andrew say give me inspiration, motivation, but a lot of the things he says as well, I just take with a grain of salt. He makes fun of people who have Apple Watches. I have an Apple Watch. He makes fun of people who go to the gym and work out. I still go to the gym and work out. And I love to listen to people's truths. And I think that we're all different and we all have different truths. So instead of trying to ridicule, compare, or tear down another man and, his beliefs and what he says, just focus on what you got going on. Because overall, I think that Andrew has affected more men, especially young men, in a positive light than he has done in a negative light. That's why it's important to have your own beliefs and to know and to love yourself. So I love you guys. It's positivity, good vibes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace. I'll see you guys on the next one.